The phone has changed, I think, all of our worlds, some way or another. To me, this is one of those paradigm shifts that happened from film to digital, happened about 10, 15 years ago. This iPhone 10, or the latest phones, has been that second paradigm shift in my lifetime as a photographer the last 30 years. This has changed my world. So not only as a teaching device, but also a capturing device and a sharing device. So without further ado, let's talk about the iPhone camera features only. I'm not going to get into editing. I'm not going to get into social media or any of this. So I'm going to talk about the basic features, and this is 101. And certainly join us on a 2-week trip in Antarctica or Alaska or somewhere, and I'll teach you everything you need to know about the phone and learn things. So the first thing I'd like to show you is 3 different ways to access your camera. The quickest way is swipe right to left. Let's see, right to left, and you go straight into your camera, which is absolutely the quickest way. You're not going to miss the shots, and it goes right into whatever you left last time. I'll go to photo. That's the quickest way, but I have to let you know that you've bypassed your code, your login code, so you're going to see 0 images in your photo folder. Don't freak out. They're protected. So you just bypassed your code and you take a few pictures, and if you want to get into your photos, your previous ones, you got to put your code in. That's the first way, right to left, quickest way. With these, with the 8 and the 10, the new phones, they actually have a button down on the bottom right. Smartest thing Apple's ever done is put the camera and the flashlight on the front page. Wow, what a concept. So if you hold it down, it's called a haptic touch. You touch it, it pops right into the camera. That's the second way. Not as fast as the swipe, but just as quick, almost. Okay, third way is, well, there's many different ways of accessing the camera, but you go into the home screen, which is here, and then you have your camera icon, which I always have mine in the top left. 3 ways to access your camera. I like the swipe right, it's quick. You're instantly into your camera, you bypass your code, and you can get that shot that's happening in front of you right then and there. So, this is where you get to see yourself in the wiggly wigglies up here. The third coffee I had today, no, just kidding. But you got this, I'm going to start in the upper left and go through the different features. The top left is the flash. If you select on it, you get yellow and white. They certainly didn't consider colorblind people because yellow and white look exactly alike for most people. But right here, I turn my flash off. And the reason I turn my flash off is it is so close to the lens that it really does a disservice to photographing your friends. The light is way too close to the element. So I would prefer outside light or just not use the flash. That said, I will use the flashlight for video if it's dark. You can still film, but you have to go back in and turn this on for the light to work with video. So that's the flash. The next one is live view. How many of you have shot hundreds of pictures and realized, oh, they're all videos? That's really fun to edit afterwards. So this is the live view, and I believe it defaults to on. So live view is basically it shoots 1 second of video with audio and 1 still. Why? I haven't figured it out. I even asked Apple and no one had an answer. Kids love it for social media. People like it for the little boomerang effect. I know Ralph uses it very efficiently, but I see no use in live view, so I turn it off and keep it off. The next one, if you are taking pictures of your feet, you have the timer on 3 seconds. If your pocket suddenly gets really warm, you have it on 10 seconds and it's taking pictures in your pocket. If you catch on fire, you have a Samsung. No. Okay. The next is the filter pack right here. The upper right is 3 little squares. The 3 gray are circles. You select on that, that's a filter pack. And you can see down on the bottom the slider right here. It goes through all the different filter packs. I recommend leaving it on original because you can do this in all the images post. If suddenly you get this, what do they call it, vivid or vivid warm, you take all your pictures with vivid warm, there's no way to batch them all out. So you got to go back and change it in each image you want to use. So I suggest original and then making the changes later once you shoot the image. So that is the filter pack, upper right. And that's also in the edit mode too. So if you do go in an image, you hit edit and you'll see these 3 boxes pop up. It's pretty much ubiquitous across all of Apple devices as those little circles. All right, so next, let's get out of the filter pack by selecting on it. Now I'm out of the filter pack. All right, so we're going to start, and then the bottom left is how you can access your roll. So that's one way you could access your camera roll. With the iPhone 8 and 10, I think one of the best improvements, and it's certainly a selling point, and it's what drove the price up, is we now have 2 lenses. Before, everything was a digital zoom. And if you noticed, you zoom in on someone's face, it just looked really bad, or an animal. So the only zoom I recommend with the phone are your feet. Move forward, move back, because what you're doing is destroying the pixels. That said, they now have a second camera, so they have a wide angle and telephoto. And that's what this little 1 and 2 button is. If I select on that 1, it turns to 2, and now it's the second camera. And it's just as sharp. So when you start deviating beyond that number 2, like I don't know why you would zoom into, let's go to, I don't know why you would zoom in 8 times. It just destroys the pixels. But by selecting the button, it goes from 1 to 2. And that ensures the sharpest image. The other thing is the bottom right, and then I'll get into the features. But this thing is like the selfie thing that's scary. I don't know. It's a new phase that people like taking pictures of themselves and putting it on. It used to be food and dogs, and now it's themselves in places. So the selfie concept is beyond me, but that camera is much improved. Again, they improved the optics. They also have an infrared sensor here that can recognize your face in pitch black and dark. So they have, I think, 8 cameras or 9 cameras on this, whether you know it or not. Front, back. Anyways, moving right along. Let's start. I'm going to slide through these different features. Time-lapse. Notice it's red with a bunch of tiny hash marks, or not small hash marks, but 60 of them. Slow motion has 240 hash marks. It's red. Video is solid. Photo, notice it turned white. This helps a lot when you're in bright sun and you can't see your screen well. You can see a difference between a red and a white circle. That means you're in the photo mode when it's in white. Portrait's white circle, square is white circle, and Pano is a white circle. And notice when I push on them, or when I'll show you in a moment, but when you select on them, especially in video, it turns square, which means it's live, it's filming. And then it'll turn around when you shut it off. So let's see, where'd I go from here? Photo, let's see, you're all here to learn something today, right? Perfect. All right, at this point, I need a volunteer, you. Okay. What's your name? Kay. Kay? Rich, good to meet you. All right, Kay here has diligently volunteered, so do you mind standing up, Kay? You want to be part of my scene? So what I'm going to do is show you one of probably the best feature, not best features, I shouldn't say that over and over again because I've already showed you 5 best features, but one of the best tips I could provide for you is exposure compensation. This makes every single photo great. And that's what the whole topic is this week, right? So, all right, Kay, so I'm going to take a photo of you, and I see that light is very harsh behind us. So I'm actually going to step on this side, have you kind of a simple background over there. And I'm going to do a horizontal, and I want to show you something because it drops off in the shade and the sun, or shade and bright. So notice that the yellow, whoop. Well, you get the idea, right? So, and that's one thing is when the first version of this came out, I was down in Antarctica, and all my videos were upside down because they didn't figure out the magnetic South Pole, things are supposed to be upright. So that I had a little discussion with Apple on. But they're improving it like this. So anyways, you get the idea. Just turn your head sideways. So exposure, it's going to try to expose on her face. It's going to try to recognize the face and expose to it. You can see the box, and when I move around, the box is following the facial recognition. But by touching anywhere on the screen, you can see that box moves around, and it changes the exposure. So I'm always fishing around trying to find a neutral area. But notice, I want to get Kay's face, the right exposure. So I'm going to hold my finger down for 2 seconds in one spot. 1, 2. See that box flash? It's solid now. It says AEAF lock. Auto exposure, autofocus lock. It's also locking the white balance too, which they don't have up there. But this, it's a good tip, right? But that's not why you're here. The best tip is exposure compensation. By dialing up and down on the screen, I could adjust my exposure so it's perfect. And then I want to dial it down so there's some light in the background. You know, it's dark enough in the background, but I see that light is a nice halo light from behind, and then I take one shot. Bingo. Oh, you dial your finger up and down on the screen, and it'll adjust the exposure. Once you lock, you have to lock the exposure, though. You have to hold it down for 2 seconds, and then to unlock it, you touch anywhere on the screen, and it'll go back to its crazy ways, you know? All right, so that's exposure compensation. At this point, I turn my volume off, and I'll tell you why. Okay, 1 second, I'm still working. All the phones do this. All the phones will do this exposure lock and dial it up and down. That is if you've updated your operating system in the last 2 years. So I would hope you do it every few months, but we still get people show up with a 2006 operating system. But anyways, moving right along. I want to take a picture of Kay here, and I do this with many people. I'm actually going to use the second lens because I could really isolate. I want a nice background there. Well, somewhat of a background. There we go. So you obviously exposed properly. 1, 2, 3. I want to dial it down. It feels a little warm there. And then I'm going to say, all right, Kay, smile. Thank you. Perfect. All right. Thank you, Kay. Give her a round of applause for Kay. Thank you so much. All right. Now, this is, hopefully you're not embarrassing you, but I didn't take one photo of her. I took 33. And I turned the volume off so I wouldn't scare her with that. So by holding the button down, you get this burst mode. And this is the best way to get the perfect light and the expression. Most of the time we take a picture, when you say smile, people smile, and it's just this forced, unnatural look. But it's the after. When you tell them the joke, you say thank you, and you're still taking the picture, but they don't know it. I mean, it's not incriminating, it's not mean or anything, it's just photography. So what you can't see here, and I'll hold my phone up, but there's a series of menus here, and one in the center is select, right? In the bottom center, select, and then you get this choice of 33 images. Watch the expression on her face. So Apple thinks it knows what's best by, which is crazy. It has this little gray dot there, and there's this haptic feedback. The phone vibrates when you hit that perfect one. It thinks that's the best. Not always the case. I actually, let's see. All right, there, right? A little pose, you know, the little highlights in the eye. Probably right about there. So I'm just going to select that one for now, out of 33. And by selecting it, you see the check mark. And I hit done, and you're going to get prompted with this message right here. It says, keep everything, which generally I would wait till I get home and see these on the big screen and not make decisions on a phone, especially standing up here in front of you. Keep only one favorite. So I'm just going to keep the one favorite for now. And bingo, there it is. That's how you get a good portrait each time, is by getting people to go through facial expressions, tell them a joke, before, after, and during and after you want to shoot, and make sure that you get all those expressions, and then you select it afterwards, just like a portrait shoot in a studio. Anyways, that's portrait. That's the photo mode, exposure compensation, exposure lock, dial it up and down, take a burst, select it, and then it's in your photo roll. And let me just show you quickly, in all photos, let me go to my albums, there's actually a category called burst. And I got 181 bursts in there, which means, 4,000 or 5,000 images. Easy on I don't know what I have on my phone right now. Oh, 2,100. So I just edited everything out. So I'm down to manageable size. So that is the basics. Let me go on to some of the other features here of the phone. So that is photo, and it's 4:3 ratio or square, which it's square. This old nostalgia from Hasselblad. I am not sure why they still have the square mode there. I think we'll get rid of it. Another great feature. I want to say almost the best, but we're getting to the best. We're working it. Pano mode. I think Apple owns 7, 8, or 9 patents on just the process of taking this Pano. What it does is it takes slices of videos and stitches them together, overlays them, stitches them together, the algorithm to compress it and then output it as a single image. It's a phenomenal amount of information that goes into such a tight little picture. It's unbelievable. I like it because everywhere we go on our ships, the scene is so grandiose, especially with the ship in the bow in the foreground or some of the landscapes we get. It's impossible to capture with a single image. This is where panorama is key. So it defaults from left to right. Notice the arrows here. If you're shooting a horizontal, you want to have your phone vertical. If you want to shoot a vertical, as out there, it's some incredible subjects to photograph vertical. You hold it horizontal and you tilt it this way. This is video, so you have to go really slow in low light. Outside, I would probably brace myself, a lot of like Tai Chi, and you just, about that fast, I'll go outside. In here, watch this. I'll do this Pano, I'll click it once and notice the button turns square. And it'll tell me to slow down because I'm going too fast. It's trying to shoot video. Or if you move up, it'll say move down. It only gives a few simple things. All right, and then you hit it again and stop it. I like visual cues. Right here I have the 2 subjects on the end, so you need some visual cues to start and stop. Don't do 180 degrees. No one wants to see that. 90 to 120 degrees is a really good subject. So that's left to right. But almost every single panorama I do, it's trying to expose right here, which that light's going to blow it out. The sun is here. It's going to blow out the right side. Or it's going to underexpose here, overexpose here. So you go to the right, you select on the right side, and now you could go right to left. And I shoot all my panos, one left to right, one right to left. And it's amazing. The contrast and color are radically different between those two. And another thing you can do, which is quite nice, and I often do this for many of them, is once again, I will lock that focus right in the center, in that exposure in the neutral zone, and then go left or right, especially when you have extreme contrast. So lock it in somewhere in the neutral middle, and on a plane that you want focused, and it's great, panorama. So this is, I'm getting really excited about this portrait mode. This new, it's a kind of a beta mode, and I thought it was kind of gimmicky at first, and now I'm starting to find its use. And it's amazing. It's like having a 105 macro lens for doing portraiture. And what it does is it shoots one image. It's actually using both cameras, and it shoots the background and the foreground. It'll screen out the person, and you could drop the background out. I'll show you examples of this because I'm not going to do any more demos, but you take a picture of the portrait mode and you can select the different light. You could do it before or after. I suggest taking a picture, you need to be 6 to 8 feet away from your subject. And then what's nice is when you have a background far away that you can drop out, but the background has to have some information to make that subject worth seeing. So that said, let's go back to my folders. Go to my folders, down here. And I did do some portrait mode so that I'm not fumbling up here. Here's Kayvon in Baja. And once again, you're not seeing it here, but if I hit edit, there we go. I could slide, watch the background. Oh, I hit portrait mode, so it's yellow because it's selected, and enhance button is the wand up on the right. I hit portrait, look at the background. I select portrait again, bingo. It screens out his face, somehow masks it out, and it even works for chickens. I don't know how that works with their feathers. And then I hit enhance. I usually enjoy the enhance button. It obviously looks far greater in here. But this is where you could adjust the exposure. Contour light, studio light. Oh, there's contour light, which is my favorite. And then you got some crazy stage light, so it gets kind of weird. But anyways, contour light, you hit done, and save the photo, and there you have it. The background drops out. It's great for portraiture. Here's Gus, one of our chief mates on our ship. I dropped the background out and just focused on his plane. This is Ray, dropped the background out there. It's my daughter where, this is fun because you could, well, the black and white, oh no, it's saved. So once you save it or export it, you can't change it. And that's the same with slow motion and a lot of the features where if you make the changes on this phone and email it or airdrop it to someone, they won't be able to make any adjustments. So just be aware of that. All right, moving right along. So that is Pano, Square, Portrait, Photo. Now we're getting into the fun stuff. Video. I prefer 60 frames per second. It's capturing much more data. With this phone, I recommend just using 2K because their 4K is not true 4K. And it's a behemoth of a file size. Just don't even go to 4K yet, they're not there. And the quality obviously isn't that good. So 2K, 60 frames a second, and I shoot a lot of video. I have found that the optical and mechanical stabilizer in this 8 and 10 will blow you away. I tried with my DSLR, I tried to film from an airplane in Alaska, flying over a glacier, just getting beat up. I mean, a lot of turbulence, and the phone was tack sharp, solid. Actually, I'll show you the video, then that'll be a lot easier, right? Something like this. So we're banking, waiting for this glacier to calve, and it's relatively stable considering we're getting slammed all around. So the phone has this amazing way, and this is, Apple wouldn't discuss their secrets with me, but they have optical and mechanical stabilizers built into this little machine. It kills me. I don't know how they do it. I'll show you, well, even a better example in a moment, but so that is video. Let's see, oh, here's one. This was a zip line in Alaska. But notice how stable it is, even though I'm bouncing around, scared to death, trying not to drop my phone, but you're zipping through the canopy forest. So this is classic. I love doing an iPhone walk in the forest of Alaska, and I'll get maybe 10 guests or 8 guests, and they all have their phones, and I stand here and I said, okay, take a picture of me, ready? And what I'm doing is I'm not taking a picture of them, sourcing them out of how many people shoot vertical versus horizontal. And there's a definite correlation of age. Every kid shoots vertical. Every kid shoots vertical. They don't know horizontal. So if anyone wants to make $1 million or more, design a swivel for your TV so you could spin it vertical and you could watch feature films vertical like they should be, right? Feature films should be vertical. That's how we see. So this kills me, but it's also, I love it. I love sourcing out people, and I shoot vertical and horizontal depending on what. If producing a movie, shoot horizontal. Anything social media, sharing, vertical. So anyways, video, you select it. I'll just do a quick example. You select it, notice it turns the square. It turns square, which means it's live. And I just discovered this is a new feature. The little white dot, you could take photos while you're shooting video without interrupting it. So bingo, I just took a bunch of shots. So that whole thing is like, oh, video or stills, video or stills. Now you can do them both. You can't shoot a burst, but you can shoot. So I just shot this video and then these stills. So I shot 3 stills or 2 stills in a video. So that's kind of neat, video. I'm starting to use more, and I'm actually incorporating a lot more of my iPhone video with my DSLR and my time lapses, and it's seamless. I mean, the quality is there. There's no discussion about that. So time lapse, let's move right along. Time lapse, I can't tell what time it is because I have my phone. Do you have the time? 3:45? Okay. Perfect. We got 10 minutes, and I'll take a few more questions. So time lapse. Time lapse is like, how many hours do we have? This is my passion. This is my obsession. It fuels my OCD, and I love it. I'm not a fan of the time-lapse feature on the phone here because it's set at intervals. They're basically taking one shot every second. So you have to stand there for 4 minutes to get a 10-second video. Most people are like, why is it so short? Because you're only there for a minute. So 4 to 5 minutes you have to stand there or set it up there, and it's going to eat up your battery too. But that said, they've improved it so much from the previous version. So what it is, it's like when you hit go, it starts spinning, and it's square, and you'll see it spin around, and I don't know what, I think it's 240 little hash marks, because I got, well, once again, this little 240 hash marks going around, because it's 240 frames a second, or sorry, take this back. We are in time-lapse still. So this is 60 frames per second is what we're producing, or 24 frames a second, depending on what you set it at. So the time-lapse feature, so that one's done, but this is what it looks like. See? I was here for 30 seconds, and that's all. And you got to be still, has to be still. Let me take you on a trip down memory lane here in Antarctica and show you these time lapses at, there it is. So, oh, here, I'll just take you through a few of these. We've got a minute or two. But this, let's play. Of course, it wants to crash now. This is what my house looked like on December 6th in Ojai, California. The whole town burned down for a month. So I live in Southern California. And all my batteries were dead from my camera. I killed my camera within the first time lapse from this viewpoint. So I had my phone for an entire week. That's all I had to shoot these fires. So this is the Thomas fire. That's Ojai, Lake Casitas, then Ventura and Santa Barbara's over here. And then the floods soon after followed. But what's amazing about this, it's locked down on a tripod, but the difference between black and white, the highlights and shadows is exceptionally good. I mean, previously it was terrible. It would be completely blown out, especially in this situation. But this is something that's advanced that I really want to show you. And this was something I presented to Apple in February, was their time-lapse feature. Notice this camera is locked down. It's on a tripod up on the top of our ship, the Orion. It has stabilized the background, yet this is moving. This should be stable, that should be moving. That's where the optical and mechanical stabilization comes in together, and my choice would be to be able to shut it off. One simple selection, be able to shut off the optical stabilizer, because the mechanical one worked fine just as well. Or maybe the other way around, maybe you turn the mechanical off top. So anyways, they're blending these different stabilities in the phone, and it's crazy technology. But I'm impressed. It's far better than my DSLR, which has no stabilization when you're shooting wide. Or, you know, with the longer lens, you have vibration reduction or image stabilizer, it works. Question? How long, so the question is, how long was that? So this was a 20-second video. I think it was probably 45 minutes, 30 minutes. This is the gullet. We went really far south. We went down to 67 degrees south in Antarctica this summer because it was clear of ice. We never get down in this bay. It was phenomenal. That day was, all of us got sunburned, shorts, t-shirts. It was truly an amazing day. I had it mounted to a little tripod. So I carry a little Joby tripod with a clamp, and then I usually tape it or mount it to, like, have them turn the radar off so I don't get cooked, or just mount it to a rail. So there's a little Joby tripod. There's vibration, yes, and you can't avoid that. Anyways, join me tomorrow at 3 o'clock and you'll see me get really excited about time-lapse. I could go on for 7 days about time-lapse. So I want to finish with one thing, and that is slow motion. Wow, this is my favorite feature as of now. Although I got other tricks up my sleeve that we'll work with. I'm starting to work a lot with infrared in iPhones. B&H, you know those guys, they sell these little FLIR cameras for $250. You snap them into the bottom and you can shoot infrared. And if I have time, I'll show you a few of the pictures of polar bears on ice and penguins on ice and how their heat print shows up. And I love it. And well, anyways, once again, sidetrack. Slow motion. Let's get back here. Slow motion. I select, once again, back in that photo or camera thing, back in the settings, I select 1080p, 240 frames per second. If you have an older phone, you're only going to have 120. Pick the highest frame rate. So I think it's 240 at 720 is the older phones. Now it's 1080 at 240. Pick 240 because what you're doing is slowing the video down by 90%. So you're going from 240 frames a second to 24 frames a second. That's really cool. I'm not going to embarrass anyone by shaking their face or moving or doing things or splashing water. I'm going to show you some examples. So you basically film it, but remember, you're shooting 240 frames a second. These are minimum 200 to 300 megabytes, these files. So it will eat up your batteries for sure, or your memory, if you have a smaller phone. So you take a picture, but remember that you're going to be slowing it down. So I try never to shoot anything over 30 seconds because it's just painful editing. That's another tip I have, 30 seconds, try to keep it at that. So I'm going to go back once again into my camera, into my roll here, and go to slow motion. And I think I tried this earlier. Zip line. Here we go. My friend zip line in Alaska. I think it cost all but $10 to make, and you'll see it's scary. But notice when I hit, it might have sound. So this is real time. And then it slows down right there when he loses his hat. This is, woo! Yeah, good save. And then it's 300 yards. It was a long zip line. But the key is Apple tries to figure out in and out points, and there's just default. And it's always painful to watch somebody who posts a slow motion that's so slow that you don't want to see it. So I'm going to show you a little tip here, and I'll see if it shows up. But I'm going to hit edit again. It showed up. That's an improvement. So here's something that works with all video. You dial in these two edges and watch it'll turn yellow. Actually, see how it turns yellow? That's cropping the video, but I don't want to crop it. I want to adjust the slow motion first. So you got these upper hash marks. You got really small ones here and wide ones here. This is where the slow motion's coming in, and that's where it's going out. So I'll dial it in. Ethan's coming down. He's about right, just a hair more about there. And then I want to cut it out, but I don't want it too long. You got to remember, it's going to go really slow. About right there's a cut. I see a fine cut there, and I hit done. And sometimes if you crop in or you start trimming, it's going to ask you, do you want to save original or crop the original or save a copy? And this is where it gets tricky. You can't recover that. So save a copy if you're not that sure about it, and you'll have multiple, especially if you got like 3 really good scenes in one frame, one video. You can cut it into 3 different slow motions. That works well with dolphins. So here's, let's see, let me go back. So this is how I dial it in right here. But the really important ones are, let's see, is this it? No. That's it? No. Let me see if I have it here. Here it is. It's blowing 15 knots. It wasn't too bad. The seas were a little rough. I bruised my eye because I'm trying to take pictures, and cameras are getting wet. People were miserable. This was in Baja. They weren't miserable. They were excited. But we had dolphins jumping all around. So I put my camera away, and I use my phone. I use my phone probably 75% of the time when I'm in the field. This phone got soaked. Everyone got soaked, but this thing's waterproof from all practical purposes. I don't do underwater with it, but notice this one now. I dialed it in and out because there was 2 sets of action, but I chose this right here. So there's one, and then this guy just went for the sky. I mean, that's acrobatic. And you can't hear the sound, but it slows the sound down, so it's kind of funny. You get this grinding, and then here you hear us all yelling because it's just, they were coming from all directions, these bottlenose dolphins that come to Baja, and you get to experience something like this. So, excellent. Well, that's what I have today for the iPhone. So thank you for joining me.